It's 2024 and another PlayStation game is getting a PC port. We've had games like Horizon Zero Dawn, fire. We got Spider-Man, probably the best superhero video game. And we can't forget God of War, absolute banger. This time another flagship game is getting a PC release, and this time it's Ghost of Tsushima. Mark your calendars because May 16th is when all you PC players get to play it. In this video, I'm going to be going over what Ghost of Tsushima is, mostly for you guys who don't know the game. But low-key, I'm trying to convince anyone that's on the fence of getting it to try it out because it's one of my favorite games. And hey, I'm not alone on this. In 2020, when Ghost of Tsushima came out, it won Game of the Year. Okay, not technically. On paper, Last of Us 2 got that award, but Ghost of Tsushima did win the Player's Voice Award, which we all know really is the only category that matters. All jokes aside, 2020 had some amazing games that came out. Of course, Last of Us, Animal Crossing, Doom Eternal, Final Fantasy VII Remake, Hades, Half-Life Alyx, and really Ghost of Tsushima was the second runner-up. Alright, with all the hype out of the way, let's talk about the story of Ghost of Tsushima. Now, you might have heard a lot of good things about the combat of Ghost of Tsushima, but the story is just as good as well. You play as Jin Sakai, a samurai during the Mongol invasion of the island of Tsushima, fighting to retake his homeland. Now, a major part in this story is this major descent from the honorable samurai to someone else who's mostly referred to as the Ghost. Don't worry, this is not a spoiler. These are all portrayed in the trailers. You'll see Jin's uncle say things like, "We live, die, and fight with honor. If you stray from this path, what will you become?" Yeah, and you can see this a lot in the visual imagery as well. There's that stark contrast between Jin in his samurai armor and his other outfits, which kind of look like a ninja. So you can imagine how that affects different choices you make throughout the story. Now, another really important part of the story are the relationships that you build along the way. These relationships and almost companions really remind me of things like Mass Effect, where you're gathering your troops and allies, building your army, and gathering people to fight for your cause. All these allies have some amazing backstories, which really gives you incentive to do these side quests and learn more about what these characters are within this world. Alright, next, if anything, the one thing you're going to play this game for is the combat. From the swordplay and the parries, to getting headshots with a bow and arrow, all the way to getting stealth assassinations with all the tools that you have. The combat is extremely satisfying. Now, one pretty unique mechanic that Ghost of Tsushima has are the different stances that you could switch between. These stances work alongside the parry mechanic and is used mostly for the different types of enemies that you encounter in the game. What makes combat unique and fun are not what you can do as a player, but really is how you as a player responds to what the game throws at you. With a variety of very distinguishable enemy types, these stances that you can switch between are what gives you that gameplay variety as you adapt to the different enemies that you encounter. Of course, as you progress throughout the story, these enemy types become even harder to counter as they throw extra moves with you or have little buffs like a flaming sword, and even a support enemy type called the Shaman that makes enemies more aggressive and attack faster. Now, all this combat I've been mentioning is more of an arena style combat, but Ghost of Tsushima also has these thing called duels. These are more 1v1 semi-boss fights where enemies have a lot more stamina and health. These duels can be quite challenging, especially on the hardest difficulty, but are quite memorable as they do play a part in the story. Another major part of the combat are the ghost weapons. As you progress through the story, you'll unlock more and more ghost weapons, which I won't go over in this video, but I will say that it leans more into stealth builds, which really is a popular playstyle choice. Alright, next I want to talk about the visuals of Ghost of Tsushima. Any area that you travel to in Tsushima can make for one hell of a picture. From its bamboo forests, to the red and yellow leaves, falling as the seasons change, the absolutely stunning sunsets as it reflects off of large bodies of water. The environment and the world that Sucker Punch has built has to be one of the best that PlayStation has came out with. This is one of the categories that Ghost of Tsushima won in the 2020 Game Awards, which was Best Art Direction. I mean, just look at all these clips and tell me not. There's not many games that make you stop and admire the world. Speaking of which, Ghost of Tsushima also has an amazing photo mode where you can capture those perfect moments and even adjust the environment, the time of day, the filter, the weather, and even the emotion that Jin has on his face. I can't tell you how many pictures I've taken, all thanks to the surprisingly good photo mode. Now, as it's coming out on PC, there will be ultra wide display support, upscaling with Nvidia's DLSS 3, AMD's FSR3, and Intel's XeSS. There'll also be low latency and DLAA support, and if you prefer using controller, which I highly recommend, you can take full advantage of the DualSense haptic support with the adaptive triggers that the PS5 controllers have. It's a nice to have, but if you have the opportunity to try it, the adaptive triggers really give another sense of immersion, especially as you're pulling your bow back and you feel the bow release. As you throw your grapple and you feel the moment it attaches to a ledge, and especially as you get that parry and you do a counterattack to take down an enemy. Hey, but I understand a few PC players don't want to buy a PS5 controller just to play on PC. Alright, next and finally, this is the director's cut, so we get a ton of free stuff. There was a DLC that you had to pay for called the Iki Island expansion. That you get for free. This means a whole new area, a whole new side quest with another big baddie, new armor, new gear, and a whole nother branching storyline, which is pretty crazy. Now, along with the Iki Island expansion, you'll also get the multiplayer mode called Legends absolutely free as well. And I know. You have to create a PSN account, it's restricted in other countries. I'll make a whole nother video on that, but just keep in mind, if you can play it, I highly recommend that you try it out. Legends is a completely different experience. All the same mechanics and mostly all the same gear from the single player, but restricted into a level and loot based system. What this really means is that you have a lot more replayability, it's a lot harder, and you get to play with friends. Multiplayer and co-op is the name of the game. There's a PvP mode, there's raids, and probably the coolest part, it's centered around the supernatural. There's Oni or demon lords, teleporting archers and Tengu. This adds a bunch of new mechanics that are a little too unrealistic for the single player mode, which in this mode brings a lot more creativity and diversity in the environments that you play in. Alright, I think I covered all the good things that I can think of about Ghost of Tsushima. I'm pretty hyped about the PC release, hope you guys are too. Hit that like and subscribe for more content, and as always, thank you guys for watching, hope to catch you in the next one, and GG.